Well, hello everybody. It's Peace here. I'm going to talk with you briefly about areas of human development. Um, Basically, what we're here on Earth to do. Okay, so let me go ahead here. So, a lot of times when we're in relationship with others, and there's some conflict, or we see that like they're doing something that they need to stop doing that's unproductive or that's dysfunctional. And we wonder, why aren't they able to change or why aren't they able to stop this? And basically, I would say there are three reasons why, and I actually didn't write it down, but one would be they are not equipped to do so. One, they don't want to do so. Two, or three, they don't know how to do so. Okay? So, if they, for example, let's just say, let's just say, um, let's just say that, hmm, mm, let's just say smoking marijuana every day is not healthy. It's not a functional thing to do, right? And say that you used to do it and you stopped, but your partner is not able to stop or they won't stop. And you're like, I don't understand. We know it's not healthy. We know it's damaging our lungs. We know that the chemicals in it, are not necessarily safe. All of those things, right? So you may have the intellectual knowledge of it, but that's not sufficient, right? Okay, so what did I say the three reasons could be? Is it is you don't know how, excuse me, you don't want to change, or you just can't change. Okay? So here are the three levels of, well, it's actually four levels of development right here. So there's the physical, emotional, spiritual, and intellectual levels of uh, development. The physical is basically you're growing, okay, your physical body growing, the aging process, okay, from birth to death, physical development. Emotional development is related to emotional intelligence. You usually develop emotionally through your upbringing from the time you're born all the way to death. You're still developing emotionally. And if you have a stable, functional family environment, then you will definitely develop emotionally unless you are in the category where you are a new soul, which means you're essentially on a near psychopathic level where you will not have developed the love and the understanding and things like that, and it would be inhibiting in you. Then there's the spiritual development, which is not at all related to religion whatsoever. Okay, spiritual has nothing to do with any religious beliefs or any particular religion. A spiritual excuse me, development is related to just recognizing, I would say, the divine, okay, and knowing that something in my throat, knowing that life is not just some random hodgepodge accident, that just resulted out of nowhere. No, there's more to it. And then, of course, intellectual development. We have people who are born geniuses, and we have people who become smart through study. Okay, so those are the four areas. And I want to write down really quickly um, the reasons. Uh, Put in a new slide here and bring that up. so this here would be memory two. Um, reasons for not growing. Okay, it'd be, and when I say growing, I specifically mean um, emotionally specific. So for not growing emotionally, uh, oh, I would say just mainly emotionally. Okay, so one, don't know, how, excuse me, don't know how to, don't want to change, which means that you're getting something out of this. You are getting something you like from what you are doing that in your mind outweighs the disadvantages. Okay? So either you don't know how to change, or you don't want to change, or three, you can't change. Ooh, that's a big one. What does that mean? What I mean by that is that you have not learned or developed, you have not learned the lessons that must be learned in order for you to change. Okay? You haven't learned those lessons yet. And that can happen because remember, we are spiritual beings living in a human body. And when we come to earth, initially, we come to earth as psychopaths. Okay, every single one of us. And we must learn those four areas of development. Okay, and that takes several lifetimes. And then not only must we learn them, but we must learn the different intricacies of them. And that takes many lifetimes because we must have many different types of experiences. So these four areas here. So if, for example, you have to have a certain spiritual level of advancement before you can understand or even make certain choices. Just like you have to have certain levels of emotional development before you can behave in certain ways, okay, and respond in certain ways. So just like with physical, you may want to be able to jump over something, but you may need a certain level of height before you can make that jump. Okay, so when I say you can't change yet, that means you don't have the prerequisite requirement. It does not mean that you can't necessarily get it, but it means that you don't have it right now. In some cases, the person cannot get it. For example, if it's a physical height issue, you're born at a certain height, well then that's what you're stuck with, with a certain height of growth. That's what you're stuck with for that lifetime. So it's going to be certain things you will not be able to do because of your height level, okay, during that lifetime. And that's also true emotionally, spiritually, and intellectually. Now, unlike physically, people can grow emotionally. When I say physically, like once a person reaches their full development, say you become an adult, you're not going to grow, anymore. You're going to reach a height level where then it becomes, you don't go any higher, right? But that's not true with emotional and spiritual development. You can be limited intellectually if you have some uh, handicaps, like you're born with some intellectual handicaps, then you can be limited there. But emotional, and even with emotional development, depends on, again, too, if you have some handicaps that can inhibit your emotional development. Your spiritual development, I have not seen any handicaps to spiritual development. That really depends on your experiences and you choosing a different path, okay? So it depends on your experiences, um, the intelligence that you gain from your experiences, and then you making different choices based on that, okay? All right. So here are the three reasons. Oops, outweighs the disadvantages. Put this over here, right? So these are the reasons. And this is why sometimes you cannot wait on a person, and sometimes you have to move on. Because no matter how much you or they may want to, they just may not be able to move on. And you can choose to stay back and try to wait on them, but it may take them several lifetimes before they can do it. And I'm thinking specifically of male and female relationships. Sometimes, people get involved and they end up having these problems and stuff in the relationship, and you're wondering like, dang, why won't he change, or why won't she change, or why can't we change? Well, it's because of, you know, these areas of development and these reasons why one may not grow emotionally. Now, the don't know how, I'm not going to say it's easy to fix because everybody, well, now with the internet, um, and everyone who has access to it, they can find information about emotional development, spiritual development, intellectual growth, you know. So you can now find it, but they must have their eyes open to where they want to change. They want to learn more. They want to grow. Okay? So even if you don't know, you have to first want to know. Okay? You have to want to change. Okay? But then there's going to always be, not always, but until mankind passes a certain level, there will still be people who cannot change in a given period of time or even in a given lifetime because they have not learned those prerequisite lessons that puts them in the position. For example, you can't progress to the sixth grade until you pass the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth grade, right? And then some people can only pass those at different speeds, at different pace, right? So that's what that is. So now let's look at the relationships between these areas of development. So what I have here, I said an increase in spiritual development does mean an increase in emotional development. Because when you're spiritually developed, you have a certain understanding now. You see things from greater than just an emotional or intellectual perspective. You see things more greatly in a grand perspective. For example, I understand now, for example, if a person is behaving in a mean manner, right? from an emotional point of view, we'll just say, well, that person is not happy, or maybe that person has from an intellectual point of view, we say maybe that person has a mental illness or is intellectually challenged, okay? Or from a physical point of view, maybe they have a brain injury or something like that, or emotional point of view, maybe they come from a dysfunctional family, they got a lot of trauma, so so it's being expressed in this way. But then from a spiritual perspective, you will say, okay, well, this person is perhaps in this position because maybe it's their lifetime to experience, to have this type of experience, to learn to grow through it and to love anyway. So you have a broader experience, and when you have that broader experience and understanding, you can respond differently emotionally, because you'll see, well, one, it ain't about me. This emotional thing is what's going on with this person. And you understand that we must all go through this and grow through this. So you can respond more intelligently, emotionally, when you grow spiritually, because you have a greater understanding. However, that is not true in reverse. Okay? Just because a person has emotional development does not mean they are spiritually developed. It does not mean that. Could be and for example, you could have many people who behave, in a very pleasing, pleasant manner publicly, right? But behind closed doors, they are a spiritual nightmare. You have people who present, there's the person that they present to you, and then there's who they really are, right? So, but there is a certain level of emotional maturity that can certainly imply some spiritual maturity, but it does not necessarily mean so. Okay? Now, an increase in intellectual ability absolutely has nothing to do with your spiritual development. We have geniuses, we have very highly intellectual people who can be mean and evil and unloving as anybody else. Okay, so your level of intelligence has nothing to do or no indication whatsoever with your spiritual level of development. So whoever you consider to be highly intelligent does not mean that they're spiritually developed. Okay? Emotional and intellectual development are not related either. Because just like I said, we could have geniuses, people who are very smart, but emotionally undeveloped. They don't know how to handle their emotions. Um, they have, for one or more of the reasons that I mentioned. So emotional and intellectual development are not related. All right. You can have very intelligent, like geniuses who still fly off the handle, who have poor emotional control. Okay? Physical development is not related to any of the others. It's not related to emotional, spiritual, or intellectual. You could have a obese person or I forget what you call them, a dwarf, like a very short person. It does not indicate their level of spiritual development or emotional development. Is not related. You can have a gorgeous, what in your eyes you consider to be a gorgeous person, or Miss America or Mr. America, but they can have the worst emotional behavior ever, or be, just live a wild life and be not spiritual whatsoever. Okay? But I will say an increase in your spiritual development may help you increase in an intellectual way, because you may make different choices now and you may choose to learn more. Okay? And there's different types of knowledge, and I'm not going to get into that. But there's book knowledge, and then I guess there is basic sense, which if everyone is brought up in a functional family with when I say functional, I mean the parents had the basic intellectual and emotional capacity, then and they're not capacity, but the basic intellectual and emotional development, then I would say the child will develop the common sense, will have common sense, okay? But if not, even then, that has to be learned, all right? So there is the book smarts, there's common sense, and then, of course, there's street smarts. And, none of those. Now, for street smarts, I will say this. Your spiritual development will definitely help you with street smarts because it's just going to be certain things you're going to avoid and you're not going to do. Okay? And your spiritual development will help you with, per se, common sense because it will, again, it helps you with your emotional development. Okay? So there we go. Hope that fills you in and gives you greater understanding on human development and, and basically why some people can't change or grow. Um, you know, when you look at them, you see they're doing this and they're doing it over and over and over. Like, why can't they just do this differently? Well, it's because of these areas and where they are and these reasons, okay? And the fact that we are spiritual beings living in human bodies. And we have to go through several lifetimes to learn the various lessons involved in these areas. All right. God bless you all. Bye.